The galaxy was a tapestry of civilizations, each with its strengths, ambitions, and flaws. Humanity, a relatively young species, had long been dismissed as unremarkable by the galactic community. The Zenith Accord, a coalition of advanced species, viewed Earth as a quaint backwater, a planet brimming with potential but lacking refinement. That perception was about to change. It began with a spark, a breakthrough so extraordinary that it set the entire galaxy on edge. Deep in the Martian research labs, a team of human scientists unlocked the key to resonance fields, a technology that enabled the direct manipulation of matter and energy on a molecular level. The discovery wasn't just revolutionary, it was impossible by the standards of the Accord. Even the most advanced civilizations had deemed such control theoretical at best, a pipe dream at worst. The first demonstration was a modest affair. A small drone was disassembled atom by atom, then reassembled perfectly, faster than the blink of an eye. Yet, for those who understood the principles involved, it was like watching a star ignite. The scientists, led by Dr. Elena Voss, quickly realized the implications of their invention. Resonance fields could redefine warfare, medicine, infrastructure, and energy. It was the kind of technology that didn't just tilt the scales, it threw them off the table entirely. Word of the breakthrough spread like wildfire, amplified by humanity's penchant for broadcasting everything. The Zenith Accord couldn't ignore the implications. Humanity, once considered a species of dreamers and warriors, had stumbled upon something that could make them uncontested masters of the stars. It was a nightmare for those who preferred the status quo. Within weeks, diplomatic envoys arrived at Earth's doorstep. Tall, graceful Avar diplomats, crystalline-bodied Torval engineers, and the insectoid Kalzik swarmed Earth's orbital platforms, their vessels gleaming with centuries of technological refinement. Humanity greeted them with cautious optimism, offering tours of their facilities and data samples of the technology. What the Zenith Accord didn't anticipate was humanity's uncanny knack for adaptation. While the resonance fields were impressive, it was humanity's cultural response that truly unnerved the galactic powers. Instead of hoarding the technology, humanity began applying it in ways that bordered on reckless brilliance. Cities that once sprawled inefficiently transformed overnight into hyper-efficient hubs of innovation. Starships capable of outmaneuvering anything the Accord had ever built rolled out of human shipyards. Diseases that had plagued colonies for centuries were eradicated in weeks. The Zenith Accord watched in stunned silence as humanity catapulted itself to a level of capability that rivaled their own. There were those among the Accord who whispered that humanity was proving dangerous, not because of their technology, but because of their audacity. On Earth, Dr. Elena Voss stood in her lab, her gaze fixed on a holographic display of galactic political activity. Each data point, each intercepted transmission, painted a vivid picture. The Zenith Accord was scrambling. They hadn't decided whether humanity was a threat, a potential ally, or something else entirely. Voss's gut told her the Accord wouldn't wait long to decide. "We've pushed too hard, too fast," said Lieutenant Commander Rick Hayes, one of the military liaisons assigned to the project. He was a rugged man, with a face etched by years of combat experience. "The Accord doesn't like surprises, especially not from a species they thought they had pegged as second-rate." "Good," Elena replied, her voice steady. "Let them underestimate us. It's our greatest weapon." Rick frowned, but he couldn't deny the truth in her words. Humanity's history was littered with examples of triumphs born from being underestimated, wars won by outsmarting larger forces, disasters averted through sheer ingenuity. Outside the lab, Earth's orbital space was bustling with activity. Resonance-driven construction drones were assembling a new class of starships at a pace that seemed almost magical. Among them was the Erebus, humanity's first resonance-powered warship. Sleek, deadly, and bristling with technology the galaxy had never seen, it was more than a ship. It was a statement. The Accord, however, wasn't idle. A fleet of diplomatic vessels was massing at the fringes of Sol's borders. Officially, they were emissaries, coming to learn about resonance technology and humanity's progress. Unofficially, they were scouts, spies sent to gauge whether humanity had grown too dangerous to coexist with. For humanity, the moment of truth was drawing near. They had unleashed their true potential, and the galaxy had taken notice. The question wasn't whether humanity could hold its own against the galactic powers. It was whether the galaxy could handle what humanity had become. As the stars shimmered with the movements of fleets, alliances, and ambitions, one thing was certain: the galaxy was on the precipice of change. And humanity was no longer content to stand in the shadows.
The days following the arrival of the Zenith Accord emissaries were tense. While many of Earth's citizens celebrated their newfound technological superiority, a quiet unease settled among the highest levels of government. Diplomats, military leaders, and scientists all grappled with a singular truth: humanity had crossed a line. They could no longer be seen as a fledgling species, they had become something entirely different. Something powerful. Dr. Elena Voss paced her office, staring out at the sprawling cityscape of New Geneva. The towering skyscrapers, powered by the resonance technology, reflected humanity's newfound sense of pride, but also their uncertainty. They were treading in waters no one, least of all themselves, understood fully. For all the brilliance of resonance fields, they had yet to grasp the full scope of their capabilities. Elena, Rick Hayes's voice broke through her reverie, "We need to talk about the Accord's fleet." Turning from the window, Elena met Rick's stern gaze. The military liaison had been quiet since their last discussion, but she could sense the undercurrent of worry in him now. "I've read the reports," she said softly. "They've assembled a combined force, more than we've ever seen from them before. It's a show of strength." A show of strength, or a warning? Elena didn't answer right away. The truth was, she wasn't sure. The human fleet, bolstered by the advanced resonance-driven ships, was formidable, no longer reliant on outdated tactics or conventional weaponry. Yet, the sheer number of ships at the Accord's disposal was staggering, and that wasn't counting the alliances they could call upon. "Do you think they're going to strike?" Rick asked, his eyes narrowing as he read the lines of tension on her face. Elena took a deep breath. "I don't know. But if they do, we won't be the underdogs anymore." She glanced down at the holographic map in front of them, flashes of moving ships, the vast emptiness of space between them. Humanity had become a player in this grand galactic game, but would the Accord accept them as equals, or would they be viewed as a dangerous new threat that had to be contained? In the deepest recesses of Accord politics, things were shifting too. The Council of the Zenith Accord was no stranger to political intrigue, but the sudden emergence of humanity's technological leap had shaken even the most seasoned members. Their discussions were often held in secret, hushed voices speaking of an unspoken fear. "Humans are dangerous," said Ambassador Tlar, a member of the Kelrith, a race known for their wisdom and long history. His slender blue form shimmered in the dim light of the council chamber. "They have something we didn't anticipate: creativity. Their ability to innovate without the constraints of tradition makes them unpredictable." "Unpredictable?" interjected Vesra, a high-ranking member of the Terralian species. With her insectoid physiology, she was as calculating as her kind's long limbs were efficient. "They've unlocked the resonance fields. The technology is ours now. We control it. Their creativity doesn't make them dangerous. It's their sheer willingness to challenge everything we've built that does." "There is no turning back," said Harn, an aging Sorlak. His eyes, black as voids, stared intently at the holographic map projecting humanity's location. "They've already begun reshaping their society. They have no respect for the old ways, and that's why they're a threat." "Then what do we do?" Tlar asked, his voice low but tense. "We act," Vesra replied, her voice sharp as a blade. "We take preemptive action. Their ships, their technology, it will be ours. We can't allow them to continue unchecked." As the discussion continued, it became clear that the Zenith Accord was divided. Some factions believed that humanity's rise should be supported, harnessed for the greater good of the galaxy. Others saw it as a challenge to their centuries of stability, and they feared what would happen if humanity was allowed to continue evolving. Back on Earth, the tension was mounting. The leadership of the Human Federation, as well as the rising factions that had emerged around their newfound power, held their breath as the first official diplomatic contact with the Accord was scheduled. The emissaries had arrived in Earth's orbit, their ships hovering like ancient sentinels. The leaders of the Federation, including President Natalie Reyes, stood before the holographic projection of the Accord's delegation. The alien diplomats, bathed in the soft glow of their ship's light, were a study in contrast to the human leaders. The room crackled with anticipation, as the weight of history pressed down on them all. They were no longer just Earth's representatives, they were now the faces of a species that had irrevocably altered the galactic balance. Humanity stands ready to join the greater galactic community, President Reyes began, her voice steady and calm. We've discovered a new frontier in technology. We want to share it, but we also know that with such power comes responsibility. We hope the Accord will work with us, not against us, to ensure a peaceful future for all. The leader of the Accord delegation, a sleek, humanoid figure from the Zavith species, studied her for a long moment before responding. We are aware of your advancements, President Reyes. But power is a dangerous thing. Your species has no experience with such influence. We cannot let you destabilize the galaxy. The tension in the room grew thick, but President Reyes refused to falter. We're not here to destabilize. We're here to evolve, to bring something new. A new kind of unity. But as she spoke, the thoughts of every human present were the same. Could they trust the Zenith Accord? Or were they about to find themselves the target of the very galaxy that had once dismissed them? The first steps into the unknown had been taken, but the path ahead was clouded with uncertainty. The galaxy was about to learn just how dangerous humanity could be. The days following President Reyes's speech were a whirlwind of diplomacy, hidden agendas, and secretive movements across the galaxy. The Accord's response had been measured, at least outwardly. Their emissaries had left Earth orbit, but not without leaving a distinct message behind. Humanity's place in the galaxy would not be handed to them. If they wanted to belong, they would have to prove themselves. Back on Earth, the tension between factions was palpable. The leaders of the Federation had grown accustomed to the weight of their newfound power, but they were divided on how to wield it. Some, like President Reyes, believed in diplomacy and cooperation, hoping to secure humanity's future as a respected member of the galactic community. Others, including the powerful General Markov of Earth's military, felt that humanity's rise could not be limited by galactic politics. They had been treated as insignificant for too long. Now, it was their time to take the galaxy by force. We have the technology. We have the ships. Why wait for the Accord to decide our fate? General Markov's voice boomed in the Federation Council chambers, his towering figure casting a shadow over the room. We could conquer the galaxy if we wanted. We don't need their approval. We have the power to reshape the future ourselves. It was a dangerous line of thought. The military had long argued that humanity needed to defend itself from the growing tension with the Accord, but now, under the influence of resonance technology, the idea of conquest was no longer a distant dream, it was an achievable reality. President Reyes shot a stern look at the general, her voice unwavering. That's not who we are. If we become conquerors, we're no better than the tyrants we've always fought against. The Accord is not our enemy unless we make them so. We will not initiate a war. Her words held weight, but the doubts of many in the room were impossible to ignore. In the weeks that followed, the military prepared for a worst-case scenario, and human intelligence agencies monitored the movements of the Accord with increasing suspicion. The galaxy was on the brink of something far greater than a mere political dispute, it was staring into the potential of interstellar war. Far away, in the cold depths of space, the Zenith Accord was not idle. As the human fleet grew, so did the sense of urgency within the council chambers of the Accord's leadership. A clandestine meeting of the most powerful factions had taken place, and the decision was made: humanity had to be contained. "We cannot afford to wait for them to strike," Ambassador Tlar of the Kelrith said, his voice low and dangerous. "Humanity will not bend to our will. It's clear they're preparing for a conflict of their own. We must act before they gain any more ground." A grim silence fell over the council as the different species weighed their options. It was not just a matter of military superiority, it was a matter of survival. The resonance technology could alter the fabric of reality itself. No one knew exactly how far humanity could push the boundaries of their newfound power. "We can no longer afford to treat them as equals," Vesra, the Terralian, hissed. "They have defied us with their arrogance. The time for negotiation has passed. We will strike, and we will strike fast." The decision was made: a preemptive strike would be launched against Earth. The reasoning was clear: they needed to cripple humanity's ability to defend themselves before they became too entrenched in the galactic balance of power. There would be no warning. The first wave would hit Earth within days. On Earth, Dr. Elena Voss sat in her lab, staring at the data from the latest resonance-powered weapons test. The potential of the technology was staggering, and yet, a heavy weight pressed on her chest. She could feel the undercurrent of impending conflict. The Accord would not let humanity's rise go unchecked, and despite her best efforts, there was no way to avoid the coming storm. Suddenly, a calm signal cut through the silence of the lab. "Dr. Voss, you need to see this," came the voice of Lieutenant Commander Rick Hayes. Within moments, she was standing in the operations room, where a holographic map of Earth's orbital space flickered. "What's going on?" "Incoming transmission from Earth's defense network," Rick said grimly. "It's not a drill. A massive fleet is approaching our system. It's the Zenith Accord." Elena's stomach dropped as she watched the numbers and trajectories flash on the map. The ships were already moving at breakneck speed, fast enough to close the gap before humanity could mobilize any significant defense. "How long do we have?" "Hours," Rick replied. "We don't know if they're here to negotiate or if they're launching an attack. But I don't like the way this looks." The weight of the decision bore down on Elena. Her mind raced. Humanity was at the brink of an interstellar war, and she knew that even with all their advanced technology, they couldn't win against the combined might of the Accord, at least not in a conventional fight. Hours later, Earth's defenses were on high alert. The fleet of warships humanity had built using resonance technology was formidable, but it was still a far cry from what the Accord could muster. As the first wave of alien ships entered Earth's orbit, it became clear: diplomacy was over. The first strike came without warning. A barrage of energy pulses rippled through the sky as the Accord's warships unleashed their firepower. The world watched in stunned silence as the skies above major cities erupted into chaos. Humanity's ships retaliated immediately, their resonance-powered weaponry striking back with devastating precision. But the sheer force of the Accord's onslaught was overwhelming. In the heart of the chaos, President Reyes stood in the command center, eyes glued to the screens, her heart racing. She had wanted to avoid this. She had wanted peace. But as the first explosions rocked the surface of Earth, she knew there was no turning back. The war had begun. And humanity, for better or worse, was about to learn just how far their true potential could take them. The initial shock of the Accord strike had sent ripples through Earth's defenses. Cities that once stood as monuments to humanity's achievements were now smoldering ruins, the result of the relentless energy pulses fired from the alien ships above. The resonance-powered warships, although more advanced than anything humanity had previously fielded, were overwhelmed by the sheer numbers and power of the Accord fleet. Yet, there was no retreat. There would be no surrender. President Reyes stood at the heart of Earth's military command center, her face grim as she watched the battle unfold across the holographic displays. The screen flickered with information: fights in low orbit, losses mounting, but one thing was becoming increasingly clear: humanity wasn't going down without a fight. "General Markov, what's our status?" she asked, her voice resolute. General Markov stood at her side, his jaw set in a hard line. the once proud leader of Earth's forces had never faced an enemy quite like this, but his eyes were sharp, and his instincts were razor-thin. Our ships are holding, but we're taking heavy casualties. The Accord has numbers on us, and their firepower outclasses ours in sheer scale. Then we need to adapt, President Reyes replied, her gaze fixed on the screens. I won't let them overwhelm us. We have something they don't. Markov raised an eyebrow. What's that? Creativity, she said simply, a flicker of determination lighting up her eyes. We'll take what they've thrown at us, learn from it, and turn it against them. Humanity doesn't back down. Not now, not ever. In the heart of the conflict, aboard the Erebus, Earth's flagship, Elena Voss watched the unfolding chaos with a quiet fury. She had spent years developing the resonance technology, studying it, tweaking it, and harnessing it for the betterment of humankind. But now, she was seeing it used in the brutal, unforgiving theater of war. What's the damage on the outer hull? She asked Lieutenant Commander Hayes, who was standing next to the operations console. Not critical, but we've lost 2 of the shield generators. We're vulnerable on the left flank, Hayes replied, his voice steady but tinged with urgency. We need to pull back, or we risk total loss of the ship. Elena shook her head. No. We fight. We don't retreat. The Erebus was more than just a ship, it was a statement. With its resonance-powered engines, it could outmaneuver anything the Accord had ever built. With its weapons, designed to harness the very fabric of space itself, it could obliterate an entire fleet. But the battle was still too young, too chaotic, and the Accord's superior numbers were beginning to tell. We have a chance here, Elena said, her fingers flying over the control panel. I've been working on something, a new weapon, something to disrupt their ship's control systems. If we can get within range, it might just give us the upper hand. How long? Hayes asked, his gaze flicking nervously to the growing swarms of Accord ships. 20 minutes, Elena said, her voice filled with a quiet confidence. I just need to get close enough. It's risky, but we've got nothing to lose. Meanwhile, the war wasn't just being fought in the skies. On the ground, Earth's forces had mobilized quickly, using the same resonance technology to construct defensive strongholds and counterattacks against the Accord's landing parties. Cities may have been razed, but humanity wasn't just defending, they were evolving in real time, adapting to the threat with a speed that unnerved the Accord. Lieutenant Jalen Kim, a young officer who had never seen a battle until that day, found himself in the heart of a war zone in what was once New York City. He had watched the city fall from orbit, entire districts being vaporized in moments. Yet now, standing in the rubble, his unit was pushing forward, fighting with technology that had once seemed too advanced to be real. Keep moving, people, he shouted into his comm device as his squad huddled behind a resonance-shielded barricade. The Accord's ground forces were relentless, but humanity's new tactics, using the same resonance principles to alter weapon trajectories, reroute energy, and even manipulate the terrain, were slowly turning the tide. His heart raced as he observed the first signs of success. The Accord's infantry, usually swift and deadly, were beginning to falter. Their formations were breaking. The sheer unpredictability of human tactics, changing the battlefield with every move, had caught them off guard. What was once a steady stream of destruction was now a chaotic brawl, with the Accord struggling to keep up. Sir, we've taken the eastern perimeter, his communications officer reported, his voice a mix of disbelief and pride. They're pulling back. Kim's heart surged, but he knew better than to celebrate too soon. Don't get cocky. Hold your positions. They'll be back. Above Earth, the battle between the human fleet and the Zenith Accord raged on. The Erebus danced through firestorms of energy pulses, its resonance shields flickering dangerously. Elena's pulse quickened as the countdown ticked down to the final moments. We're almost there, she muttered under her breath, gripping the console tightly. Come on. All systems are compromised. Lieutenant Hayes shouted. We're taking hits to the primary drives. We're too close to pull back now. Elena shot back, her voice steely. Engage the disruptor sequence. The ship's engines roared to life, pushing the Erebus into the heart of the Accord's fleet. Elena focused all her energy on the resonance weapon she had developed. As the ship closed in on the enemy lines, a pulse of blue light erupted from the Erebus' core, spreading outward like a wave through the fabric of space. For a moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, the Accord fleet began to stagger. Ships froze, their systems scrambling as the resonance disruptor wreaked havoc on their command systems. The tide of battle shifted in an instant. The once confident fleet was now a disoriented, crippled force, easy pickings for the human ships. Elena exhaled in relief, but it was short-lived. There was still too much to do. They had won the battle, but not the war. Back on Earth, the fire of resistance burned brighter than ever. Humanity had taken the first blow, and it had fought back with ferocity. The Accord had underestimated them, assuming they could crush the upstart species with a single strike. But in doing so, they had awakened something in humanity, something fierce, something relentless. Now, the war would be different. Humanity had tasted the fire of resistance, and they would not be so easily extinguished. The galaxy had underestimated humanity once, but it would never make that mistake again. The first blow had been struck, but the real fight was just beginning. In the aftermath of the battle, Earth stood battered but unbowed. The landscape had changed irrevocably. The war zones, once sprawling cities, were now marked with the scars of battle. Yet, amidst the ruin, something remarkable was happening. Humanity was no longer simply defending itself, it was transforming. The war had been hard, the losses devastating. Entire fleets had been shattered, and large portions of Earth's major cities were now uninhabitable. But the unity forged by the attack, the shared determination to survive and thrive, was stronger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Humanity had been tested by fire, and like a phoenix, it was rising from the ashes. President Reyes stood at the front of the Federation's command center, her gaze hard as she surveyed the battlefield reports. Despite the victories, despite the technological leaps humanity had made, there was no time for celebration. The Zenith Accord hadn't just retreated, they had regrouped, and the next wave was already in motion. "We've shown them what we're capable of," General Markov said, stepping beside her. "But they're not going to let us keep pushing. They're not going to give up until we're completely defeated. The Accord won't be satisfied until we're back in our place." "I know," Reyes replied, her tone cold and determined. "But humanity doesn't know how to give up. We're going to fight until the end. And we'll win." Across the galaxy, the news of humanity's resistance spread like wildfire. The Zenith Accord had expected Earth to crumble after the initial strike. They had believed that their overwhelming firepower would crush the fledgling species. Instead, they found themselves facing a new, unpredictable force, one that was unafraid to fight back. In the depths of the Accord's command structure, the leaders were in crisis mode. Ambassador Tlaris' once certain confidence had been shaken. Despite all their power, humanity had proven to be an enemy unlike any they had ever encountered. "They adapted too quickly," Tlar said, his voice laced with frustration. "We crippled their fleet, destroyed their cities, and yet, they fight back. And they fight smart. Humanity's survival instinct is unlike anything we've seen before," Vesra, the Terralian, added, her many eyes narrowing as she watched the war unfold on the holoscreens. "We underestimated their ability to innovate. They've learned from every blow we struck. We can't afford to let them keep growing stronger," Harn, the Sorlak, said, his voice calm but filled with dread. "They've disrupted our fleets, crippled our best warships, and now they're learning to use the very technology we gave them. They're using it against us." The threat was clear: if humanity continued to adapt and evolve at this pace, they would soon become an unstoppable force. The Accord couldn't afford to let them gather more strength. Their next move would have to be decisive. On Earth, Elena Voss was no stranger to the pressure of war, but now, she faced something entirely new. The resonance technology she had pioneered had already become a game-changer. But she knew, with every passing day, that they couldn't just keep reacting to the Accord's moves, they needed to seize the initiative, create a future where they didn't have to fight just for survival. She was working tirelessly with a team of the Federation's best scientists, engineers, and strategists. Together, they were piecing together a new kind of weapon, one that could push the boundaries of what they had already achieved. But this new weapon was not just a physical tool. It was a mindset, a new way of thinking about war, about power, and about the future. Dr. Voss, Rick Hayes's voice broke through her concentration. The first wave of prototypes is ready for testing. She stood, the weight of the moment heavy on her shoulders. Let's see if we've finally got it right. In the large testing facility, they activated the first prototype, a resonance-powered quantum weapon designed not just to destroy but to shift the fundamental laws of spacetime within a localized area. The idea was simple, yet revolutionary. They would collapse entire fleets by warping space itself, rendering the enemy unable to even respond before they were obliterated. The first trial was a success beyond expectations. As the device activated, a ripple moved through the air, bending light and energy, twisting space around it. A section of the testing area, once brimming with life and activity, was gone in an instant. In its place, there was nothing but a singularity, a rift in the very fabric of reality. "It works," Elena whispered in awe, her eyes wide. This could change everything. With this new weapon, humanity had finally crossed a threshold. But Elena knew that the Accord would not take this lying down. The war was no longer just about defense. Now, it was about striking first, decisively and powerfully, before the Accord could regroup and strike back. As Earth's scientists continued to refine their new weapon, the second wave of the Accord's forces arrived. This time, the stakes were higher. The Accord had sent their elite strike force, a fleet led by the most advanced warships the galaxy had ever seen. Their orders were clear: eliminate humanity before they could become a true threat to galactic stability. But the Zenith Accord had miscalculated again. The human fleet, now armed with their new quantum resonance weapons, was ready. As the Accord ships entered Earth's atmosphere, the Federation fleet emerged from the darkened skies like a storm, the eerie hum of their resonance engines filling the air. "We've got one shot at this," General Markov said, his voice calm and resolute. "If we hit them with the quantum resonance weapon now, we might be able to take out their entire fleet." President Reyes watched as the battle unfolded before her, a sense of grim determination taking hold. She could see the flicker of hope in the eyes of her commanders, her people. Humanity had been through so much, and yet, here they were, still fighting. Still standing. "Now," Reyes said. "We end this." With that command, the quantum resonance weapon was fired. The burst of energy tore through space, reaching the heart of the Accord fleet in a flash. The results were immediate. Ships flickered in and out of existence as their very forms were warped by the destructive power of the resonance field. The fleet, once so sure of their dominance, disintegrated in an instant. The balance of power had shifted irreparably. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Humanity had not only survived, they had evolved. And in doing so, they had become a force that could not be ignored, a force that would reshape the future of the galaxy. The Accord, reeling from their defeat, knew one thing above all else: they had awakened a giant. And now, the question remained: would humanity remain the underdog, or would they rise as the true masters of the galaxy? The answer was already clear. Humanity was not going to be controlled. Not by the Zenith Accord. Not by anyone. They had unleashed their true potential. And the galaxy would never be the same. In the wake of their hard-won victory, Earth stood on the precipice of something far greater than they had ever imagined. The resonance-powered quantum weapons had decimated the Zenith Accord's fleet, forcing the galaxy to recognize humanity's strength. But for all their technological advances, for all their newfound power, one question lingered in the minds of Earth's leaders: what came next? President Reyes stood before a vast council of representatives from across Earth, her hands resting on the podium. The victory against the Accord had been a turning point, but she knew the real challenge was just beginning. The galaxy would not simply accept humanity's rise to power. They had witnessed the destructive potential of Earth's resonance technology, and the Accord wasn't the only faction that would seek to control or eliminate them. "We have won a battle," Reyes began, her voice steady but tinged with the weight of responsibility. "But this is not the end. This is a new beginning. Humanity now has the power to reshape the galaxy, but we must ask ourselves, how do we wield that power? Will we become what we fought against? Will we be the conquerors, the destroyers, the oppressors? Or will we build something better?" Her gaze swept across the room, meeting the eyes of her council. General Markov, Elena Voss, and countless others, each had contributed to humanity's success. But now, it was time to decide what kind of future they would create. While Earth's leaders deliberated, the rest of the galaxy watched with a mixture of awe, fear, and confusion. The Zenith Accord, now in shambles, had no clear response to their defeat. Other factions, once aloof or dismissive of humanity, were reevaluating their stance. Some were considering alliances, others were preparing for conflict. But all knew that the galaxy was changing, and humanity had just proven it could not be ignored. Among these factions, the Shirae, an ancient race known for their mastery over the manipulation of time, were perhaps the most intrigued. They had studied humanity from afar, impressed by their adaptability and resilience. But what truly fascinated them was humanity's potential to evolve beyond the boundaries of any species they had encountered. Humanity's breakthrough in resonance technology was something they could not ignore. It was no surprise when an emissary from the Shirae, an imposing figure named Orthor, arrived in Earth's orbit. His ship, a sleek, black vessel with shifting, ethereal patterns, was a testament to their mastery over space and time. Orthor had come with an offer, one that could change the fate of humanity forever. President Reyes stood at the window of the command center, looking out at the stars. A message was on its way, a meeting that could shift the balance of power once more. But what would it mean for humanity's future? "Elena," Reyes said, turning to Dr. Voss. "What do we know about the Shirae?" "They are ancient," Elena replied, her voice tinged with both curiosity and caution. "They manipulate time in ways we can't even begin to comprehend. But their technology, if they're willing to share it, could push us even further. Or they could use us. It's a gamble." Reyes nodded. "We've already gambled everything once. I can't afford to lose again." The Shirae emissary, Orthor, finally arrived aboard a diplomatic shuttle, flanked by a small but powerful group of his people. They were unlike anything humanity had encountered, a race of beings that seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly presence. Orthor himself appeared both humanoid and alien at once, his form shifting slightly as though caught between timelines. "President Reyes," Orthor greeted, his voice deep and resonant, "we have been watching you for some time. Your species has shown great potential, far beyond what even we had anticipated. The resonance technology you wield, it has implications beyond anything you can understand. But we can help you understand it. We can show you how to control it fully. In return, we ask only for an alliance. We believe together, we can reshape not just the galaxy, but the very fabric of reality itself." The room fell silent. Elena's eyes narrowed. "And what's the catch?" Orthor's expression remained unreadable. "There is no catch. Only a path forward, a path you must choose for yourselves. We are offering you a chance to accelerate your species' evolution, to push the boundaries of what is possible. But you must accept the responsibility that comes with such power." Markov's voice cut through the tension. "And what do you gain from this? Why offer this to us, of all species?" Orthor's eyes glinted with something unreadable. "We gain a partner. Someone to help us confront the forces that threaten our very existence. The Zenith Accord, for all their strength, cannot stop what is coming. Together, we can ensure the future, not just of your species, but of the galaxy itself." As the Shirae emissary's words echoed in the minds of Earth's leaders, a quiet unease settled over the room. President Reyes knew this was a pivotal moment. The temptation to accept the offer, to gain more power and knowledge, was strong. But with that power came great responsibility. She couldn't afford to let humanity fall into the same traps that had ensnared so many civilizations before them. "I don't trust them," Elena said, voicing what everyone in the room was thinking. "They may offer us a path to greater power, but we have no idea what they're really after. What if we're just pawns in a bigger game?" Markov crossed his arms. "It's not just their technology we have to consider. It's the consequences of using it. If we don't act quickly, we risk being overrun by a galaxy that's already starting to view us as a threat. We need allies, and the Shirai are the only ones with the power to help us defend ourselves." Reyes stood in silence for a moment, considering their options. There was no easy answer, no clear path forward. But in the end, one thing was certain: humanity would not go down without a fight. Whether they accepted the Shirai's offer or struck out on their own, they had proven something fundamental in their victory over the Accord: humanity could evolve, could adapt, and could rise to any challenge. "Make contact with the Shirai," Reyes said at last, her voice unwavering. "But we'll do it on our terms. If they want an alliance, they'll have to prove they're worth it. We won't be anyone's pawn." The room nodded in agreement, the weight of the decision settling heavily on their shoulders. They had won their first war, but now, they were stepping into the unknown. The stakes had never been higher. The future of humanity, of the galaxy itself, was in their hands. And as humanity stood on the threshold of this new chapter, one thing was certain: the galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. The stars seemed to burn a little brighter as President Reyes gazed out across the cosmos. Humanity had survived its first test. But now, the real battle for the future had begun. Would they remain a force for good, or become the very thing they had once feared? Only time would tell. Humanity stood at the dawn of a new age, a period of transition from the brutal struggle for survival to the uncertain path of shaping the future. The Zenith Accord's defeat had marked a victory not just of military might, but of spirit, intellect, and evolution. Yet, with the Shirai's offer hanging over them like a cloud, humanity faced a decision that would determine their place in the galaxy, for better or for worse. On Earth, the air was thick with the anticipation of change. The Federation's headquarters buzzed with activity as the highest-ranking officials, military leaders, and scientists worked furiously to prepare for the next step. The Shirai had promised knowledge that could extend humanity's reach across space, manipulating time, bending reality, and unlocking untapped power. Yet, the potential for corruption, for unforeseen consequences, loomed large. In the war rooms and laboratories, the debate continued. Should humanity accept the Shirai's offer, taking the knowledge they had been denied for millennia? Or should they chart their own course, relying on their own ingenuity, their own will to survive? President Reyes, having lived through the horror of the Accord's attack, the sacrifice of countless lives, now stood firm in her resolve. There was a weight to her decisions, a weight that only grew heavier with each passing day. She convened one final meeting with her closest allies, General Markov, Dr. Elena Voss, and a council of scientific and military experts who had worked alongside her from the beginning. "We've come a long way," Reyes began, her voice soft but resolute. "And it hasn't been easy. But the war against the Zenith Accord is over. Now, the galaxy is watching us, waiting to see what we'll do next." Markov, ever the realist, leaned forward. "I've said it before, and I'll say it again, we've shown them what humanity is capable of. But we can't keep going it alone. Not with the Shirai on the table. They have technology we can't even begin to understand. Their mastery of time, of space, it's beyond anything we've seen. But they've made one thing clear: they want our help. Our partnership. What are they really after?" "I don't know," Elena said, her voice betraying a rare uncertainty. "Their technology, their power, it's too vast. It's a temptation. A dangerous one. But we can't ignore that it could take us farther than we ever imagined. Or it could consume us." The tension was palpable, thick with the weight of their decisions. Reyes sighed, her gaze distant as she looked out at the stars, a reflection of the vast unknown that awaited them. "I don't trust them," she admitted finally, her voice unwavering. But I also know that if we turn away from this offer, if we choose to remain in isolation, there are others out there who will not hesitate to fill the power vacuum we leave behind. The Accord is only the beginning. There are factions out there that are more dangerous, more insidious. We have to be prepared to face them. Elena glanced at the data stream on her console, the charades offer still flashing in front of her, an endless stream of promises, of tantalizing possibilities. I understand that. But what happens when we become like them? What happens when we use their power, and we lose our humanity in the process? The room fell into a contemplative silence, the implications of their actions settling into the hearts of all present. At last, it was Markov who spoke again. Whatever we choose, we need to be ready. We've spent so much time reacting to what others have done to us. Now, we have the chance to take control. But we can't let ourselves be consumed by it. Humanity's strength has always been our ability to adapt, to overcome. We need to remain vigilant. We can learn from the charade, yes, but we must always remember who we are. Reyes nodded. She knew that Markov was right. The future was theirs to shape, but they had to do it with wisdom, with responsibility. She could not let humanity fall into the trap of becoming something they were not. The charade's knowledge is not a gift, she said finally, her voice hardening with resolve. It's a challenge. A test. And we will face it on our terms. With that decision made, humanity began to move forward with careful steps. The Federation forged a tentative alliance with the charade, but with clear terms. Humanity would not be a puppet to their will. They would share knowledge, yes, but they would never allow themselves to become subjugated. They would work alongside the charade, but the direction of their future would remain in their hands. The galaxy, now aware of humanity's newfound power and alliance with the charade, began to shift. Some factions saw it as a chance for cooperation, others as a threat to their own influence. But the leaders of the Federation were determined to stand tall. They had learned from their enemies, and they had learned from their victories. The temptation of absolute power would not sway them, and their unity as a species would remain their greatest strength. In the years that followed, humanity's reach expanded, but not in the way the galaxy might have expected. Instead of dominating, humanity became the catalyst for a new era, one built on collaboration, innovation, and the unwavering belief that their potential was limitless. Elena Voss, now a leading figure in both scientific and political spheres, worked alongside the charade to further develop their understanding of time and space. But even as they tapped into new sources of knowledge, she kept one guiding principle in mind: humanity must remain grounded. They must never forget their roots, their values, and the spirit that had made them fight so fiercely against all odds. General Markov, on the front lines, helped shape humanity's military forces into something entirely new. They were no longer just defenders, they were peacekeepers, explorers, guardians of the galaxy who upheld the fragile balance between power and responsibility. They would defend humanity's future, but only in a way that preserved their freedom and autonomy. President Reyes, though no longer at the forefront of the Federation's daily affairs, remained a symbol of humanity's strength and resolve. She had seen the galaxy change before her eyes, and she knew that Earth's future was no longer tied to its past struggles. Humanity had proven itself worthy. They had earned their place among the stars. And so, the galaxy would never be the same. The Zenith Accord had been defeated, the charade had been confronted, and humanity, once the underdog, once the victim, had risen to claim its place in the cosmos. They had unleashed their true potential. They had faced the darkness and emerged stronger. But now, as they looked to the stars, they understood, the real journey was not about conquering the galaxy, but about finding their true purpose within it. For humanity had always been destined for something greater. And this was just the beginning.